Okay, now we shall go to the next set of tools, which are cutting tools. Cutting tools would include saws. We have one saw here which is called a panel saw. There are saws bigger than this that come roughly around 1 meter in length. Okay, but the number of teeth per inch are less. This is roughly around 7 to 8 teeth per inch. In 1 inch there are 7 to 8 teeth. The bigger saws, one is called a rip saw, RIP, which has roughly around 15 teeth per inch. That is used in cutting the wood in direction of the grain. Now what do I mean by direction of grain? If you have seen a tree that is felled, okay, along the length of the tree, you will see the grain. See the grain? This is along the length of the tree. Can you see the grain? It's in the length of the tree. Okay, so this is along the length of the tree. So when you cut planks, we use a rip saw. Now there's one more saw that is around the same length, roughly around 1 meter in length, but the number of teeth per inch is roughly from 5 to 7 teeth per inch. That is more coarse as compared to this. This coarse saw, which is called a cross-cut saw, is used to cut against the direction of grain. Against the direction of grain, like in this wood, this is the direction of grain. So against the direction of grain would mean perpendicular to the direction of grain. So that is your cross-cut saw. Then we have the panel saw, which is used to cut both in the direction of grain and perpendicular to the direction of grain. So this is a general purpose saw. This has 7 to 10 teeth per inch, and it comes in a maximum length of 1.5 feet, and it is used to cut both in the direction of grain and against the direction of grain. So this is your panel saw. After the panel saw, after the saws, we have chisels. We have namely 2 chisels. This is called a former's chisel. This is used to cut outside. For example, you want to cut something like a corner half joint. This is a corner joint. This is a corner. So if you want to cut something like this, we use this chisel. Clear? When you want to cut internal, you want to cut a slot, square slot or a rectangular slot. Let's say we want to cut a slot here. So we mark it first. And once we mark it, the internals are used for cutting these internals like these. We use the mortise chisel. We chip it out like this. First we give cuts using a former's chisel. Using a former's chisel, we give cuts at the side and then chip it off using the mortise chisel. Clear? So this is the set of tools that are used for cutting. So that's why they are called cutting tools. Whenever we use chisels, we use a mallet. We don't use a hammer. The reason if you use a hammer on plastic or wooden handles, they can crack. And when they crack, you can get pinches on your hands. So that's the reason we use mallet. Now you can see on this mallet, this has a plastic face on either sides. So these are used in combination with a mallet. Now let's see how to cut a simple block. When we cut, we use some tools like this. This is a vise. Okay, we open it. We can either hold it here, or on the table you will have slots cut. Can you see the slots? This slot. Okay, so we will use it. Now I will do a marking here to cut. I need to cut it along this line. Okay, so whenever we use a saw, the first thing that we see is the direction of teeth. If the teeth are forward, then we rest our block towards ourselves. When the teeth are backward, we rest the block towards ourselves. When the block is forward, we use the block resting against the other side. There is a slot being cut in the middle. When we cut, this is the line that we are going to cut. So the first thing that we do when we cut is placing our thumb, we first make a small nick. Okay? After making the nick, then we hold it against. We hold it against this. We support it against that. Face our palm downwards, and we start cutting. And the cutting should be such that you cut only on the forward stroke. On the backward stroke, we do not cut. So no force to be applied on the backward stroke. So this is how we cut the block. After cutting the block, then perhaps we need to make a joint. So what we do is, we do the marking first using a marking gauge. Using a marking gauge, first we check it with a steel rule, what dimension we need. Let's say we require 20 millimeters. Okay, so this is 20 millimeters, and then we lock it. And we can mark. We can mark it on this edge also. So now we will hold it in a vise. see that it is parallel to the jaws, and then using a chisel, former's chisel, the edge, the tapered edge should be upward, the flat edge downward. Okay, first we give a small nick. And we cut off that material. Again we give a nick. So we give a nick again. And then first initially we take the bite. And as you can see, initially my chisel was at an angle of roughly 45 degrees to the base, but now as I go ahead, it goes on decreasing. The reason to take it along that straight path. If you start hammering or hitting it or striking it at that same angle, you will dig into the wood. We do not want to dig into the wood. But whereas we want to cut it straight. So that's the reason first initially, once the bite is taken, we take it. It comes out until the depth is reached. As you can see, a certain depth is reached and we have got one half of the joint. Similarly, we do it on the other part and then we get a joint like this.